let's start. Today we will do some coding on SVM. So as we have discussed, so before starting the coding part, I will give you a very small recap that what we have studied yesterday. And definitely I will share this video with you all. So let's start with the coding. But before starting this coding, I will request everyone that go to UCI machine learning repository, because I have fetched machine learning from machine learning repository. I have fetched one data, that is your cancer data set, right? So today we will work on breast cancer data set, and today I will show you the entire project, that is how to analyze the unknown data, how to visualize that data. If the data set is not known to you, how to use all the analysis that we have already performed previously. So today we are going to do one complete project on cancer data, and we will use support vector machine classifier for that, right? So in the previous day, what we have discussed, that is, say SVM, this support vector machine offers very high accuracy, right, compared to other classifiers such as logistic regression, decision trees, and definitely we have to prove it, because now we are going to discuss all this kind of classifiers in the subsequent lecture plans. So in this case, what we can say, why this SVM offers very high accuracy, because it has some kernel trick to handle some non-linear input spaces, right? So it is used in a variety of applications that we have already discussed yesterday, that is face detection, instructions, or we can say that instruction detection or classification of emails. So this kind of activity or this kind of classification we can perform using support vector machine. Now here we have to remember some specific points. See, in the yesterday's session, I have discussed that whenever we are dealing with support vector machine and we are having some data points like this, so what is our objective over here? Here our objective is to find out proper separating line, or we can say that to find out the maximum marginal hyperplane or MMH. So what we will do, so generally what we have discussed, support vector machine is considered to be a classification approach, though it can be used for regression also. So we can say that to handle multiple different kinds of problem with categorical variables, we can use SVM. So SVM constructs a hyperplane in multidimensional space to separate different classes. And we have already discussed SVM generates optimal hyperplane in an iterative manner, right, which is used to minimize an error. And the core idea of SVM is what? To find the maximum marginal hyperplane that best divides the classifier into classes. So for that purpose, it will select two support vectors into some spaces. So these 2 points which are far apart from these points, because these points will hold some features which is unique. So this is known as support vector. So it will use some support vectors and it will use some margin, right? And then this was the basic concept of support vector machine. So support vectors are what I have already discussed. This support vectors are the data points which are closest to the hyperplane. This one, these two support vectors are very much closer to this hyperplane, and these points will define the separating line better by calculating the margin. So these points are more relevant to the construction of the classifier, right? So these points we have discussed in the previous class. And I want to tell you one point, that how SVM will work. This concept is very much relevant, because the only objective here to select a hyperplane with the maximum possible margin between support vectors in the given dataset, right? So SVM searches for the marginal hyperplane in two specific steps. What is the first step it will follow? First, it will generate one hyperplane. Which segregate the classes in the best way. And what is the second step? In the second step, it will select the correct or the right hyperplane with the maximum segregation from the either nearest data point or as per the plotting sequence, right? So generating hyperplane is an iterative approach for SVM. So this is the very basic concept that we have already discussed. Now, what we are going to discuss today is the...
Ma'am, I have a question here.
Yes, sure.
Ma'am, this iterative approach that you are saying, is it going to iterate on its own, or we will have to run the algorithm again and again?
No, it will iterate by its own, because it is totally dependent on the selection of kernel mechanism, right? So everything, as we are dealing with Python, so this thing will be automatically inbuilt.
So it will automatically, the algorithm will run and will generate the hyperplane, then it will select the support vectors, and it will actually go ahead and...
Yes, actually we don't have to design... Yes, we don't have to design the SVM classifier, right? We are just calling the library. So everything is there in the library. So that's why we have to learn more. It is just like k-nearest neighbor algorithm, or that we have discussed, right? For unsupervised learning. So which parameter is using for what purpose? So iteration is already there in some parameter. So we have to just call that parameter or use it, right? So one thing I want to tell you, that don't think that in the first shot it will give you a hyperplane. So first it will try to fit the best possible line. So it will generate many hyperplanes and then select the optimal one. So this is the actual objective, which is known as MMH, right? So now let's talk about, so we have discussed lots about this. So we have many kinds of kernel, linear kernel, polynomial kernel, and radial basis function kernels are also there, where we have a gamma factor, and we have already considered that the value of the gamma will be 0.1, right? So this was our discussion, but what we are going to design today. Let's start with the coding part. So this is the coding that I have created for you all, and today we are going to discuss each and everything on the basis of a data set, this one. Now, as you can see, I haven't fetched this data set from UCI machine learning repository. I have fetched this data set from here, because this approach is already known to us, that some of the data sets are already there in sklearn library. So I'm fetching this data set from there. But what you can do alternatively, you can fetch this cancer data set from UCI repository, because in the UCI repository you will get variety of cancer data sets. So you can explore each and every data set, and while fetching the data set, you have to see that whether this data set can be used for classification or not. Because whenever you open that data set, it will be mentioned in UCI clearly that what is the task you can perform on this data set. So if that task is classification, then you can use it, right? So now let's start with the coding. So this is the coding. So in the first step, what we are doing, we are just importing the sklearn library so that we can fetch the data set. And after fetching the data set, here we are just storing or loading the data set into the variable cancer. Now see, in this data set is not known to us. So whenever the actual shape and actual size of the or dimension of the dataset is not known to you, then you have to explore the dataset. So after loading the dataset, the next step that you have to explore the dataset. So exploring means what? So we have to find out the features. So how many features we are having. So since I have already studied this dataset from UCI machine learning repository, in that repository it is clearly mentioned in the dataset descriptions that we have 13 features. So what I have done, I have just taken this variable cancer where we have our loaded dataset, and then I have printed the 13 features like this. So if you use feature underscore names, cancer dot feature underscore names, this will help you to print the features. And along with the features, it is important to print the labels also. So what do you mean by labels? So I have already discussed, whenever we are dealing with some data set, in the data set we will have features as well as we will have some class level. So here label means I am talking about class levels. Class level means the type. So since we are dealing with cancer data set, so here we have two types, benign and malignant. So we are talking about the class levels, and we have total 13 features. Since this data source is not known to you, means this dataset is not known to you, so it is mandatory whenever you are dealing with some unknown data, the very first step is you have to explore the data. And exploring data means you have to segregate two things. What are the features available and what are the class level availables? Now, what is this class level? Try to understand. We are going to perform classification. Classification means on the basis of this class level, we are going to segregate or we are going to define different groups using SVM algorithm. So this class level will act as target. So basically our data set has two parts now, features and the target. Target means which we are on the basis of which we are going to classify the entire data set into different groups. So that's why you will be able to see here we have to write cancer dot target underscore names. So these are known as labels. So now you will find that features, all the 13 features are there, right? These are the features that we are going to use. And see, as a class level we have only two classes, malignant and benign. So this is known as data exploration. So whenever you are performing any machine learning algorithm, this part is mandatory. Now go to the second part. So here, since this data source is completely unknown, again this data set is not known to us, so we have to know the dimension of the data set. So while data analysis part, while defining the data analysis concept, I have already defined how to find out the shape. So since our data set is loaded into the variable cancer, so if I write the variable name dot data dot shape, then it will give you the dimension. So what is the dimension? This is the dimension. So 569 cross 30. So can anyone tell that which one is the column and which one is the row here? Which number signifies column and which number signifies row? So I'm talking about shape function. Yes.
Ma'am, first one is the row, second one is the column.
Yes, means we have 569 instances. In case of Irish, we have only 150 instances. So first one is the row and the second one is the column. And see, column means we have features and as well as the class levels, right? However, you can see that here we have 13 features and one class level, total 14. However, we have over here 30 columns. So can anyone tell what is the reason of this? imparity.
And just like the flower one, maybe here we have extra columns like ID or all those.
Exactly. So basic dimension of this data set is 569 cross 30. However, the only needed data columns are 13. So who have decided this? So we, the programmer, decided this. So after studying the entire data set, I have considered that only 13 features are significant. So rest of the features from this 30 columns are discarded. So that's why I'm telling that how many features you have to include for your classification purpose. You have to find it out by reading the dataset description in details. So that's why we have considered 13 features over here out of 30 features. So this is how we can use this shape concept. So now what we can see, I haven't seen the data set yet because I have just considered the data set from the sklearn library. So I have to visualize the data set also. Why I need to visualize the data set? So that I could understand what are the data values that our data set is containing. So for that purpose, what I have done, I have printed top 5 records of the features set available for our data set, and I have printed this one. So for that purpose, you have to use this concept, and we know that what is this concept is all about. It is a slicing concept. So I'm just fetching the subset from my data set. 0 to 5, top 5 data will be displayed. So I have printed this one, and cancer is the variable name which is holding the data set. So this is how it will display. See, it will display the 5 records in a list manner, and we know that what is this list is all about. Whenever we show something within third bracket or square brackets, so it will display, means it will act as a list. So whenever we use this kind of syntax, you have to keep in mind top 5 records or whatever number of records you need, it will be displayed in the list format. So I'm just checking whether my data set is coming properly or not. Yes.
And so how do we decide that? How do we decide which features are useful and which we should discard?
It's a very good question because it is already there in your dataset description. So which features are significant? By reading those features, you will be able to understand. I have already shown now. So whenever you are dealing with any raw data set, you have 2 parts. One is the data set itself, and another one is the data description. Yes, from that description file, you have to decide which features are important. Actually, I will tell you one point. Sometimes it may happen that we have already gathered some features which is also not giving any specific kind of significance. So at that point of time, we have already learned PCA analysis. So at that point of time, we have to perform PCA, principal component analysis. Right? So this is how we can decide which features are important and which features are not, because see, it may happen that 30 features seems to be very important, but after using that 30 features, we can see that it is not contributing anything for classification. So at that point of time, we will perform dimensionality reduction using PCA or any other algorithms, right? So for that purpose, reading the actual data set is very much important. So as we have already discussed about the features, so it is our responsibility that we should check our class level also, our target variable. So here what we have done, we have already displayed the target variable. Now I want to tell you one point here. In the actual data set, the class level is written as malignant and benign. And see, whenever some column is containing this kind of value in string, we consider it as a categorical data. So we cannot use categorical data as a class level. So at that point of time, it becomes mandatory that we have to decode it. Decoding means, say malignant means 0 and benign means 1. So this is not a rule. You can use malignant means 1 and benign means 0, but you have to mention it. So here the 0 and 1 displays malignant and benign. So this thing you have to keep in mind. Whenever you have any categorical data in class level, you have to convert it into 0-1 format for classification. Now come to the next part. So we have pretty much good idea about our data set. So how many features we have, whether features are read correctly or not, how many target variables are there. So everything is clear to us. Now as we are dealing with some machine learning algorithm, so in the previous section we have already discussed, it is our responsibility that we will split the data set. What do you mean by splitting the data set? Basically, we have to split the data set into two parts. One is training data set and another one is testing data set. And I have already mentioned that the size of the training data set should be greater than the size of the testing data set. And I have already mentioned this thing also. So whenever you are considering the training and testing data split in machine learning, we are following some convention. That is 90% 10% split, or 80% 20% split, or 70% 30% split. So it is up to you. You can use any one of them, but you have to check for the accuracy. Whichever split is giving you the better accuracy, you have to opt for that. And one more thing you have to keep in mind, training data contains features as well as class labels, both. However, testing data will only contains feature. Means after training the model using features and the class label, means for which values we will indicate which class, for which value we will indicate which class. This is how the machine will learn by itself. So after learning, we will only give the features, and as an outcome our machine will give us some output. So whatever output we will get after testing, we will compare this output with the existing output that we already have in our data set. And whatever difference we are getting, this is known as accuracy. So this is known as predicted outcome and this is known as actual outcome. So after testing, comparing these two outcomes is very much evident. If the difference of this predicted and actual outcome is very much high, it means our machine is not trained properly. So at that point of time, we have to again train the model. So until we get a very good accuracy. So
we are using very less percentage for the testing data. So
yes,
aren't we like testing less?
Yes. And so this is a very good question. Yes, this is a very good question. That is why we are using very less data for testing. See, try to understand. You can compare this situation with your exam situation. Means whenever teacher teaches, since we are dealing with supervised learning, so there will be a supervisor. So whenever a teacher teaches, always this teacher prefer to teach more. So I will prefer to give you more idea about support vector machine. But whenever I take a test, I will give you a very few questions, right? I will not give you questions from each and everything that I have taught earlier. No. Some selective questions are given to you. If you are performing better, then it means you have already learned better. So this concept is applied over here. So that's why this conception is followed. So while training, we will give more data, right? But while testing, we will give very less data. If our machine is performing better into that, then we will decide that, okay, our machine is trained properly. Okay. So this is the basic concept. So that's why always we will prefer to take very less data for testing. Anyways, I have already shown that you can take this 50% and 50% also, and let's check the accuracy, right? So you can perform all the testing, that what happens if we increase the testing data. Then you can check that what is the accuracy you are getting. But it is a very good convention that taking less value for testing. Right? So now I have already discussed this coding, that how to split in the previous section. Anyways, so next part is our splitting. So how we can split? So here for splitting purpose, we have to use this sklearn.model_selection. And how to split the data set? See, I have already discussed that for splitting we will take this 4 variables. What are these 4 variables? See, X train, X test, and Y train, Y test. I have defined all these variables. What is this X train and X test, and Y train and Y test? I will explain it again. Anyways, we will need 4 variables. For what purpose? See, we have 4 sections: training features and training class level, testing features and testing class level. So therefore we use 4 variables. Now see here. So what percentage I have used? See, it is written that testing size is 0.3. So testing size 0.3 means training size is automatically 0.7. So I have considered this one, 70% and 30% split, and I generally prefer this split very much because it will give you the maximum accuracy. But it differs for some data sets, so you can check, you can change this option to 80-20 and 90-10. Even you can check it for 50-50. But I have considered 70% and 30% split for this coding. Right? And this is how we have performed. See, it is already written 70% and 30% test we have performed. But I have one question for you all. What do you mean by random underscore state 109? I have already explained for the previous algorithms. So this is an open question for you all. What is the meaning of this parameter? You don't have to answer it right now. Think, what is this all about? Why we need this random underscore state variable? Anyways, so this is how this part is used for splitting purpose. So here I am splitting our data set. Now,
and whenever we are splitting the data set, we should always start with 70-30, or we can start with any
70-30. You can start with 50-50 also.
No, like
right.
what is the best guess? The best guess is this one, 70-30.
See, this is a trial and error method, and after doing lots of research, so I have found that 70-30 is the best option always. But in some cases, whenever your data set is something else, sometimes I have to, it's a very rare case, sometimes I have to use 80% 20%. I never use 90% 10%, and 50-50 I don't have to use it. Right? So best one is 70% 30%.
Okay, thank you.
Means in the maximum of the time it will give you the good accuracy. Right? So now after splitting, what we will do? After splitting means why we need to split the data set. See, to understand the model performance, dividing the data set into training set and testing set is a good strategy. So split the data set. What function we have already used? So this function means, you can make a note, for splitting we will generally prefer to use train underscore test underscore split function. So this function is used for splitting purpose. So here you basically need to pass 3 parameters. One is the target parameter, one is the feature, and then another one is the test set size. This function will consider 3 parameters, and Random state means what? It will select the records randomly. So this thing I'm going to explain repeatedly. So this random state is very much important because the data that we have picked up, it is not in the chronological order. This random state is used to select the records randomly. So that's why this parameter is used. But my question over here is why it is 109? Means whenever I share this code with you all, you try to change this number into with some any arbitrary number and then check whether you find any discrepancy or not, right? So now you know that what this train underscore test underscore split function will take 3 parameters. So features, this one, target, and the test sample size, and this random state. Done. So after this, now come to the next part, that is generating the model. And see here we are doing the most important task. So what we are doing over here? So we are going to build the support vector machine model. So one thing you have to note over here, you have to be very careful. Immediately after splitting, then only we can use our machine learning model. And it is true for all types of machine learning model. So basically after splitting, you try to build up the machine learning model, whether you want to work with SVM, linear regression model, anything. So here we are just generating the model. So what we have to do? First we have to import the SVM module and we have to create the class support vector classifier object. So this thing you have to keep in mind. So after creating this SVM classifier, immediately after next step is we have to create the support vector classifier object. How we can create the support vector classifier object? So we have to pass one argument as kernel. Means support vector classifier object can be created by passing argument kernel. As the linear kernel, we will use here SVC. See here what is written? SVC. So this SVC is the function which is accepting one argument, that is kernel. And see here it is written that it is a linear kernel. However, you have to keep in mind, I have already discussed that we have 3 kernels. Means here you can change the kernel type. Here you can use polynomial kernel or radial basis function kernel. So you have one more scope. So while designing the SVM model, you can change the kernel type and see how you are getting the accuracy. But you can ask me one question, that why I have used this linear kernel. It is just a trial. So I have just tried different kernels and then I have checked the accuracy and then I have just here I'm just using the linear kernel. But for you all, once you get this coding, you just check the different kernel types and then see how this accuracy differs, right? So this is the first step. So here we have used SVC function with one argument, which is a kernel argument. Now what is our next responsibility? Our next responsibility is to fit our model on the training set. So how to fit our model on training set? In this point of time, we have to use fit function. So this is the fit function I am using. And see, this fit function is invoked on the variable CLF. So what is the CLF? So CLF is the variable which is actually holding the created SVM classifier. So at this line, I have created the model. I have generated the model with this kernel, linear kernel. And CLF is holding this one. So on this CLF variable, if I invoke the fit function, then we can fit our model on the training data set. So that I have done over here. And then I have tried to predict the response for the test data set, means the prediction part. Because in the training part I have already discussed, we will only pass the feature that is only X test part. We will not provide the class level part. So class level part is predicted by the model, and then we will compare it with the existing outcome as a class level in our dataset. So here we are performing the prediction, and ypred variable is holding the prediction. How to perform prediction? You have to just call the predict function with one parameter, X test, on this CLF variable, right? So these are the three steps we have to perform. You have to generate the model, you have to fit the model, and then you have to train the model. So this is the very basic step that we have already discussed. Now, what is the next part? After doing these three steps, you have to keep in mind that we have to evaluate the model. Now, what do you mean by evaluating? So basically, we are estimating how accurately the classifier or the model can predict the best cancer of patients, right? This thing we have to find out. So this evaluation part is the ultimate thing, because it will give you the accuracy part. Because at this point of time we are checking whatever our model is predicting and whatever already outcome we have, we are comparing between these two. So evaluation means we are estimating how accurate our classifier is. But here you have to keep in mind that accuracy can be computed by comparing the actual test set values and the predicted values. So what if after feeding the features into the machine, whatever output we are getting, it is the outcome, and this is known as actual values. So we are comparing between these two. So this is known as accuracy. So in this part, how accuracy can be computed? So in the Python library, I have discussed that we have so many accuracy calculation mechanism. So here I am using accuracy underscore score. So here we are just comparing these two, the predicted one and the actual one that we have. So the difference of these two will give me the accuracy. And see what accuracy I am getting over here. By using linear kernel, I am getting the accuracy 0.9649, which is a pretty much good accuracy, right? So we can say that whatever classifier I am using here, the rate of classification 96.49%. So from up to this, we can conclude that totally we have classification rate of 96.49%, and which can be considered as a very good accuracy, right? But after getting the accuracy, for further evaluation, you can also check the precision and recall of the model. Now this thing is something different. So here we have two parameters, precision and recall. And for calculating precision score, we have to use precision underscore score. This is the function. And for applying recall, we have to use the function recall underscore score. Now I have one open question for you all. Can anyone tell that after performing accuracy, why I am calculating precision and recall factor? And if you see carefully, see precision is 0.98 and recall is 0.96. So can anyone tell that what is the difference between this accuracy and precision and recall? Why we need this? By visualizing this outcome.
Ma'am, accuracy is how accurate our model is predicting. And precision means with how much perfect it is in analyzing the data. And recall
Okay,
means once like we have predicted the data, or like once we are how much precision, with how much better we are able to analyze the data, whether we are able to do that same for other data sets as well.
Okay. I will tell you one clear definition of this. You have to keep in mind. Yes, I think you are guessing from the output. Definitely, it's pretty much good guess. But see, whenever anyone asks you that what is this precision concept? See, this concept of precision is also known as, this name is very much important, it is known as positive predictive value. So this is the another name of precision. So precision is also named as this one because it is the what it will display means precision is the fraction of relevant instances among the retrieved instances. So you have to keep in mind this one, means how many relevant instances means how many relevant features we have retrieved among all the relevant instances. So we have retrieved pretty much 13 instances from my data set and all are relevant. So this is the concept of precision. Now on the other hand, what do you mean by recall? See, the other name of recall is sensitivity. And what is this sensitivity? See, sensitivity is the fraction of relevant instances that were retrieved. Means how many fractions of relevant instances we have retrieved. This is known as recall. So both precision and recall are basically a test of relevance. Means how relevant our features are that we have already considered. You can say that whatever instances we have already considered, how relevant they are. This testing must be there with the accuracy checking. So that's why we can say that what we are doing here, we are doing relevance analysis. Let me write this one also. So we are over here performing so both will come under this relevance analysis. Means I can say that if you consider a computer program for recognizing say dogs, so the relevant element is the digital photograph of a dog, right? So upon processing a picture which contains say 10 cats and 12 dogs, the program identifies 8 dogs, say. So one of the 8 elements identifies a dog. Among them say only 5 are actually dogs, which is known as true positive values. Means among the set of data files, how many true dogs are there? So these are known as true positives. So this true positive factors is very much important. While the other 3 are cats in the data set, those are known as false positives. So in the cancer data set, it may happen some feature that we are having, it may not be a actual cancer, means how many true positive values are there. So basically, whenever you are analyzing the relevance analysis in your data set, finding true positive value and true negative values are very much important. So whenever we are dealing with some cat and dogs, say I want to identify dog, the number of features available relevant with the dog are true positive values and rest of the values are true negative values. So these two concepts are very much important. And the program's precisions at this point of time, we can take a ratio. Means if say we are actually having 5 dogs, 5 true positive values among 8 values, so we will write the formula will be 5 by 8, means true positive by selected elements. So this is the concept. Always we will take the fraction. true positive value does not imply that I'm picking up the 5 dogs we have among the total number of 8 data set. Means true positive value means 5. Fine. But in case of relevance analysis, we will take the fraction. Means true positive value divided by selected elements. Right? So here what is recall? Recall means true positive value divided by relevant elements. How many relevant elements you have? So here you have to keep in mind the formula. So whenever I am talking about the precision means true positive value means true positives divided by selected elements. And what is recall? Recall means again it is a fraction, which is true positives divided by relevant elements. Right? Means I can give you a very simple example. Say you are dealing with a search engine, say Google search engine, and in that search engine you have 30 pages, right? And only 20 of which are say relevant according to your search. So these are the relevant number of pages among these 30 pages. So how we can calculate this? So at this point of time, we can consider the relevance analysis over here. Means what is the recall value then? Let me calculate this one. Say recall value will be this fraction. So I am talking about, so when a search engine returns 30 pages, only 20 of which are relevant, which failing to return the 40 additional relevant pages, then the precision will be 20 by 30. This is the value of the precision, means 2 by 3, which tells us how valid the result are. Means whatever I have searched, so how valid it is. So my validity factor is 2 by 3. Right? While recall means here we will write 20 by 60. Why it is 20 by 60? It is say 1 by 3, which tells us how complete the results are. So is it clear what is the concept of recall and precision? Means how it is calculating the factors, why it is in fraction.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, why have you taken here 60?
So that is my question. Can anyone tell why it is 60?
Ma'am, is it something related to the hour or minutes concept?
Can anyone tell why it is 60?
Ma'am, is it because we have got the fraction as 2 by 3? So 2 times 3, something like that.
Yes, that's fine. Exactly. So means the formula, see the number of relevant element. So here relevant element means total number of elements. So 30 pages are already there. So 30 pages we are considering once and 30 pages we are so total we have 60 elements total number of relevant elements. So we are considering the data set twice. So that's why it's a relevant element. So got the idea?
And is it always necessary that we have to find precision first and then recall, or we can reverse?
No. It's a formula. Anything you can use. See, everything is dependent on true positive values.
No, ma'am. In the coding, you have found precision first and then recall. So we can do the reverse also.
Yes, you can do the reverse also. Yes. So here my point is, see, whenever you are talking, see, finding true positive values are very much important. Right? Say whenever I'm talking about, we have actually in our data set 5 dogs and 3 cats, means 5 are true positive, 3 are false positive, then totally how many dogs are missed. So this thing means false negative value we have to find out. So I will discuss this topic later. So it is just a fraction. So here I want to tell you that I'm just talking about some fraction. Let me give you one good example in case of classification. In generally we will prefer to use, but anyways here I want to tell you that precision and recall will be always the fractional concept. It will be never be a whole number concept, right? So basically we have a concept of confusion matrix. So I will give you this concept later on, right? True positive and true negative values and everything, but for the time being you just have to remember one point for calculation part. So if you ask me this question that give me the precision formula, so precision formula actually will be true positive divided by true positives plus false positive. This is the actual formula of precision. Precision means true positive divided by true positive plus false positive, right? This is the actual formula. And similarly, you can guess that how we can calculate the recall also. So I'm just giving you a very simple example. Say we have a machine learning model, say this one. This is a machine learning model, and say this model can predict 120 examples, right? Say this examples of some calculation on minority classes, and 90 of which are say correct. These are the correct prediction, and 30 of which are incorrect. So at that point of time, how can I calculate precision? I will use this formula. Means at that point of time, the value of the precision will be evaluated as 90 divided by 90 plus 30. So here 90 are the correct precisions, correct value predicted, 30 are the incorrect value predicted. So actually this is the computation, actual computation of precision. So then we will write true positive values means 90 divided by 90 plus 30. So it will give you 90 divided by 120, that is approximated how much? It is precision of 0.75 near about, I think, right? So this is how you can calculate precision. So got the idea about this precision? Okay. So this is the very basic concept of precision. So that's why identifying true positive and true negative values are very much important. Anyways, we will try to calculate all this concept later on. But for the time being, this is how we can find out the accuracy. So what is your classification accuracy? This one, 96.49. And this is your relevance testing. So whenever we started machine learning training, all of you have asked me that what kind of analysis we can perform. See, in case of classification, relevance testing is mandatory along with the accuracy testing. Means what is the outcome of your project whenever you are dealing with cancer data? This 3 outcome will support your algorithm. Means if you ask me this question, how accurate your SVM machine learning model is, I will give you these 3 parameters. So relevance wise, it is pretty much relevant, and accuracy wise, it is giving you the good accuracy. So this is how you can use the SVM classifier for any kind of data set. So this is your complete code. Now what you can do, whenever I share this code with you all, you have to take this code. One thing you can do, you can import dataset from sklearn, but another thing you can do that you can fetch data from UCI. But if you find it difficult to fetch data from UCI, because after getting the data from UCI, you have to convert it into the CSV. So the shortest process is you can go to Kaggle, and from Kaggle you can download the cancer dataset or any kind of medical dataset in CSV format. It is already available in Kaggle. So here my request is, now this is the time where you can explore the accuracy of SVM model on different dataset. So in the yesterday we are talking about some medical dataset, so you can explore different medical dataset and try to compare all this. And also you have to provision, just check this one, if you use radial basis function over here, kernel function, then what is the accuracy and precision, and also you have to check for polynomial why it is giving different kinds of accuracy. So this kind of testing you can also perform. Right? So any question?
Ma'am, the random value 109 that you have taken, is that something got to do with the number of instances that we have in the dataset? Because like 30% of 569 is 170 something. So like a value between within 170 we have to pick up.
Yes, exactly. So this thing you can also change. Right? So whatever parameter I have used here after performing so many tests, so that to improve the accuracy and precision and everything, so I have fixed up these values, so you can change this one. And it will be better if you can work on other dataset also. See, you can get cirrhosis data in UCI machine learning, heart disease data, lung cancer data, and so many medical data are there. So if the associated task with that dataset is classification, just fetch that data and try to use this model. Then only you will be able to understand how accurate this SVM model is for different datasets. Then we will learn some more advanced topic and then you try out all. So now this is the high time. Now you can create your own dataset, means select your own dataset to use all these algorithms. And also you can check that for different datasets how your unsupervised machine learning is working, because this is supervised mechanism. So you can also check this one. So now I am going to give you one project in the next week, and in that project I will give you a complete question that you have to design by yourself. So I will give you that instruction and I will upload it into the Google Classroom code. And today I am going to share all this code, and also I will share the video also, recorded video also. You just go and learn, and you have to complete that assignment in order to get the certificate. Okay. So can anyone take the attendance, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have taken it, ma'am. I will send it.
Okay. So do you have any
recorded
question?
classes
I will upload it in the Google Classroom. Everything will be uploaded in the Google Classroom, and also it will be uploaded in the my channel also, my YouTube channel. So if you have already subscribed, you will get the.
Please, can you tell me the name of the channel?
Yes, Anindita Dash. Just write Anindita space Dash. This is the name of my channel. ANINDITA space DAS.
Okay.
And SVM video is already uploaded, but this is not your class video. I have recorded it before, so you can use it. And anyways, I will upload it again. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just sharing this code right now. Okay, so if you have no question, then should I leave the class right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you all. And in the next session, in the coming Saturday, Sunday, we will take the session before that, in the weekdays. So I don't know which slot. Principal ma'am will let you know, because in the coming Saturday, Sunday, I have my other meetings. so I have to reschedule that one. So you will be notified shortly. It will be in the weekdays, but time will be same from 6:30. I think.
Ma'am,
if not, yes.
Ma'am, if you can give feedback about the previous assignment,
Yes,
I submitted that.
Actually, I will give the feedback of all the assignments together to create the certificate. Okay, so I will give you just one assignment more. All of you have to perform all these assignments, and I will give you the feedback.
Okay.
Okay. So just I'm going to end this session. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.